Hello there guys and welcome, it is Niran here, and today this time for something slightly different I suppose you could say. It's an F1 2015 game discussion video. Now before anyone says anything, I know like 47,000 F1 YouTubers have already done this video before, but I did one last year, so I thought it would be a decent idea to do one again, and you know, the more the merrier in terms of Codemasters actually seeing these things. They're genuinely things that the community sort of agrees with as well. And in terms of the community, I've got your guys' opinions as well. I tweeted out last night for some opinions on stuff that you would like to see in F1 2015. I'll read some of those out. We'll go through some of the online stuff that I would personally like to see, some offline career stuff, and some gameplay stuff like AI. And then in the comments section, feel free to drop your ideas as well, and we can have a proper discussion about things. But first of all, we've got R.E.A.R videos here saying they could do a card thing like Ultimate Team on FIFA, but they'd have to put a new spin on it, like that technician cards are essential. And this tweet goes on to say you get put into races with like 7 or so people and you get more money the higher on the grid you finish. So basically I'll go through this after this final tweet and a few of the other tweets as well. We've got engine cards, so you can put better engines in your car. The better your pit staff are, the more benefits the cards you have, and I'm guessing, you know, the quicker the pit stop as well. That's a really interesting idea, and I'll come on to that with the first thing I talk about. Stockman1998 says driver transfers, paddock, post-race interviews, press conferences, and grid interviews. That would make a good career mode. I'm just going to say that. Smooth Racing says F1 2009 to F1 2015 cars and tracks in the game, online practice sessions, and scrap or really develop scenario mode. And then James, being F1 Maestro 26. Paddock from 2010, a realistic damage model, good online, and equal between pad and wheel, and for it to be on Xbox One and PS4. We know that it's going to be on Xbox One and PS4, thankfully enough. It will be a next-gen game. So we're going to start off with the online stuff, and that really interesting Ultimate Team-like idea from FIFA 15, obviously sort of transposed onto F1. Now, it would be a long way into the future, let's be honest, but think about how awesome that would be. I've always wondered how they could actually create a game mode like that, because obviously you'd only have 2 drivers per team if you were going to have driver cards. But actually the whole engine cards, the whole technician cards, the whole pit crew cards, development cards in terms of, you know, guys like Adrian Newey, aerodynamicists, if that's even a word, you could go so far into it with like design and actual engineers, not even just like actually make engineers the stars of the show, not just the drivers as well. Obviously you would have drivers, or maybe you would just drive as well, although I think if you had driver cards it would add a little bit more of an aspect. Maybe you got to watch the races happen in some sort of cinematic mode or spectator mode or something like that. The better the driver you had, the better rating, and you know, the better they would do in races, the better racecraft they had and stats, and their ratings as well. You could open packs to see what sort of consumables you'd get, like engines and other components like ERS systems and all of that, like power units. You could really go really far with that, and I've wondered how they could actually do that, and that tweet basically summed it up. That was a really, really good idea, and it's something that they will definitely not be able to put into the next F1 game, but it's worth talking about because it's something that I think in future games, if Codemasters hold on to the license, which I think will be heavily dependent on what F1 2015 is like, in all honesty, or whatever it's going to be called, that is something I think, although it will be very expensive, they could probably afford to do in future, but it would be quite a long way into the future. So that's that awesome idea. Just feel free to leave any sort of expansions on that idea as well. Other stuff you could do, other cards you could have, packs, you know, special packs, happy hour, and all that sort of stuff from FIFA. Although it would be slightly difficult because obviously FIFA have the rights to Ultimate Team. PES have done a similar thing, Pro Evolution Soccer, and got away with it, so I'm sure everyone could have their own spin on it, sort of get away with it instead of just completely copying. But in terms of other online stuff, James mentioned it there in that tweet, F1 Maestro, there needs to be some sort of balance between pad and wheel, because on F1 2015, I'm not that much of an online racer, but from what I've heard from the 17,000 discussion videos that you've probably seen in the past from guys like Air Turner and Beaver and Chipmunk and stuff, it's something that you guys will know about, but it's something that I definitely know about just from that. And the pad has, of course, inbuilt traction control, which the wheel doesn't have, and that makes league racing very difficult. You almost have to have pad leagues and wheel leagues, and that's just not very good. There's the total denial from Steve Hood, who's now left the company, who says that wheels were faster. Well, wheels in terms of on the cars, connected to the cars are faster, but in terms of the wheel versus the pad, wheel was faster in the dry, which is obviously complete baloney from what I've seen. But yeah, so that needs to be altered. That really, because that's, I mean, it's made it horrendous online, unfortunately. Online practice sessions was something that Smooth Racing mentioned, in terms of just practicing for league racing. I think that would be, and that's something they could easily do. I don't understand why that hasn't been implemented already, but I think that's certainly something, if enough people told them, they could certainly actually put that on F1 2015, let alone future games. And then other than that, in terms of online, there's got to be some sort of like reward system. Because at the moment, I mean, obviously that Ultimate Team style game mode would do that. That would get people hooked like it has on FIFA and other games. But for next year, let's be honest, that's not going to happen. There needs to be some sort of XP bonus reward system or something, because you just literally, you go on, you race, you get in a lobby eventually, you race a bit, and then you go off, and then that's it. There's no reward system, nothing happens beyond that, nothing happens after that. There's no third dimension to the game mode at all. And sort of, it's almost a bit like that in career mode, but I'll go on to career mode in a minute. I suppose that links back to career mode as well, but the online is very two-dimensional, and there's just not enough to it. I don't know how they could do that without having that Ultimate Team mode, maybe some sort of reward system, I have no idea, custom liveries, I know that wouldn't be an official F1 game, but something to mix it up a little bit. Anyway, I've been talking a while, and I haven't even got onto career and gameplay yet, so we're going to blast through the next stuff. Career, I'm not going to say, well I am going to say it, but I'm not going to explain it because you've seen it so many times. Live the life. Let's be honest, we all want to live the life career mode back with the paddock, with interviewers, with press conferences, with post-race interviews, with grid interviews, and it's not, it's something that they've complained about being too expensive, and it's frustrating because obviously it was in F1 2010, so, you know, you could afford it then, but now, 4 games later, still you can't afford it. It's frustrating, but that's how it is. I think, to be honest with you, they could at least get one of those things back. They could have a paddock setting. Even if you don't have the proper live the life thing, you could have a paddock setting at least for the HUD, or you could have post-race interviews, or you could have grid interviews, or you could have interviewers and press conferences. Like, 2 of those things at least have got to be put in, even if the whole lot isn't. Another interesting thing that Stopmat1998 mentioned, actually, that I've quite liked the idea of for some time, is driver transfers as well. Now, obviously, with licensing, that becomes very difficult, because certain drivers are licensed to certain teams, and it's hard to make Alonso. Obviously, he's with Ferrari on F1 2014. Let's just say he wanted to move into McLaren. At the time of the game, he wasn't really with McLaren, so it would have been very hard to license him to a different team. I'm not sure how you get away with that, because, of course, FIFA do, PES, well, I say PES do, they don't really have much licensing, but FIFA certainly do. So there's got to be a way around that somewhere along the lines. But it'll be something very interesting, and even if you can't get to that, there's got to be some sort of like test driver promotion system. You know, you've got guys like Daniel Juncadella, the Force India driver, Susie Wolff of Williams, Guido van der Garde, Sauber. You've now got Esteban Gutierrez, who's the Ferrari test driver, Jean-Eric Vergne, who's now a Ferrari test driver, Alex Lynn, and it's even just that. They'd be licensed to the teams. All you got to do is then license those drivers to those teams, and, you know, and then that's it. They can get promoted some points during career mode, maybe different points for some career modes than others, maybe not so predictable, because that's something that F1 games recently have been probably accused of, is being a little bit predictable. But yeah, anything like that, even if it's not just straight up driver transfers, even just promoting youth drivers to, you know, into cars at some point during career mode, it's got to mix things up, because it's so stale. You go into a second season and it's exactly the same as the first season, apart from you're usually in a different car. And finally, after that, we've got to have more meaningful XP perks. I said it on online, so I don't really go into it that much, but that driver level, what is that? What does that actually do? Does it get you better offers, team offers? Because I couldn't care. If I knew what it was about, I might actually care about it, but I don't, to be honest with you, and I don't think anyone actually does. And it just adds nothing to career mode, so there's got to be some sort of replacement there. So we're going to move on from career mode now into just general gameplay. If you want to see another one of these videos, by the way, feel free to leave that in the comment section below. There may have been some things I missed. I've tried to cram everything into one video that will probably be about 12 minutes long. So hopefully it's not too rushed, but I feel as if I'm going to try and get through everything. So we're going to now go on to gameplay, which is stuff like AI, camera angles, all of that stuff. We've been through online with that amazing Ultimate Team sort of idea. You could maybe even get drivers from previous Codemasters games. They're already licensed, or you could get sort of classic guys. You could have legend cards with Jean Alesi and Schumacher and Damon Hill and Jacques Villeneuve. Anyone who was licensed on F1 2013 as a classic driver. You could have legends. You could have even guys like Heinz Harald Frentzen from like the early thousands, or random drivers like that. I know I've got back into online, really. I shouldn't have done that, but still. Okay, so I can kind of see this video is probably going to get a little bit long, so I'm probably going to end it here, and then I might do a second video about sort of AI and, you know, camera angles and all that, and to do with the gameplay and those sort of improvements in the HUD and all that. So we're just going to end it here. We've talked about that awesome Ultimate Team idea, other online stuff, and some career mode stuff too. Feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you're new around here. Comment about enjoying it if you enjoyed the video that much, as well as any other suggestions that you have about things you would like to see in F1 2015. So yeah, there'll be a second episode of this coming out at some point in the near future, and I'll talk about all that AI sort of stuff, because I don't want this video to be too long. It's already into double-figure minutes wise, but still, it has been an absolute pleasure ranting you guys today. Have a good day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.